back to, I guess, the running backs. Crowell, very unlikely to be Texas. There's still a chance, though, ahead of his commitment date. Mario Latimer, they would have to get him on campus this weekend. He's going to be committed, by the end of the summer. Derek Cooper is a prospect that a source in Austin told us they're not going to OV. That was on Sunday, though. Things have obviously changed since Sunday, so we'll see. He did cancel a midweek Penn State OV that was set for the 17th through the 19th, and he canceled that when he was on campus in Austin on an unofficial in April. We thought, the Texas OV would get slotted in for that spot, but it didn't and has not been scheduled yet. So unless he gets to campus, that one is going to continue to trend to Miami or Georgia. Carson Baker, that was a late offer they made out of the Atlanta area. He canceled a few visits and ended up committing to Florida last weekend. So that one is out of the picture. He also never been to Texas. Some old names folks might remember from earlier in the cycle. Both of these guys are guys that were viewed as Texas leans at one point or another and ended up taking like sharp turns away from Texas. The first one, Tredarian Ball out of Texas High. This is a kid that visited Texas like 3 or 4 times before they even offered him. They finally offer him. We get on the phone. He goes, yeah, it's a big offer. Like, I grew up wanting to play at Texas, dreaming of playing there, watching them, rooting for them. Like, Texas was his school. I think their leader, Oregon, offers him Rashad Samples, and the rest of their staff gets him on campus in late July. Wine him, dine him. He's committed. Leaves Oregon committed. Shuts it down. I'm pretty sure he didn't take any visit anywhere besides Oregon since then. I believe he made it to a game, and then I know he's made it back this spring, and then obviously the OV. So that one will take a lot of work for Texas. Like Coach Top said, Texas probably can't flip him. I wouldn't put money on that by any means either, but it is an option, making a run at him. He's been to campus over half a dozen times already, but like Chad Scott never offered him at West Virginia. I don't think he even went out to Texas High to see him during the winter or spring evaluation period. So they're going to need to get him to campus, if not at least a home visit, because he needs to interact face-to-face with Chad Scott. And then another name, Javian Osborne, probably the ship has probably been sailed. It's too far sailed, but hey, we're going to mention him. Texas, they were by far and away the leader. Texas had a lot of confidence they were getting him. A lot of people in Forney had confidence he was going to Texas. And then, boom, Tashard Choice takes the job at the Lions, and pretty much overnight, he drops Texas. He cancels the OV, never rescheduled it. Then it became, he's going to Michigan. Notre Dame comes out of nowhere. They get him on campus, wine him, dine him, and he's committed to Michigan or to Notre Dame not too long after. So probably too late. I know Chad Scott went out to see him during the spring evaluation period, but obviously nothing came of it. So getting him back to campus, or at least getting a home visit, will be necessary, because him and Chad Scott need to strengthen that relationship for that to be even close to realistic. And then after that, we have Christian Rhodes. He's who I think makes the most sense of what would be a new offer to the in-state group. Bigger kid, has good track times, jump records or measurements, whatever you want to call it. And it, like Will was talking about, like, it has been a very low-key, under-the-radar recruitment for one of the state's best players. I mean, this is a top 247 kid. Committed to SMU 2 days after they offered him. Squeezed him, and, I mean, it worked. Like Will said, he does not like the recruiting process. He's not a fan of it. He barely does interviews. You have to get him in person. And the most recent interview he did was in May or April, when Oklahoma and several other schools are making a run at him. And he basically shut things down. He posted a graphic on Twitter, my recruitment shut down, I'm going to SMU. Gave quotes saying, like, everything SMU has told me they've done, literally everything. And I like how it's close to home. I can play early there. And he did bring up, he took a secret visit to Oklahoma that was never reported, and was like, yeah, it was cool, but like once I got there, I was like, no, I need to go to SMU. So I'm not sure what it is with SMU. Keith Doty is incredibly locked in with them this cycle. It sounds like Rhodes is too. And I'd imagine it'd be a pretty tough pull. SMU is a running back assistant named Coach Foster that does a really good job. Has been around for a long time. Used to be at Baylor, used to be at Kansas State, I think Oklahoma State too, and has a lot of ties to DFW and Dallas specifically. So would expect them to keep him. Could Texas make a run and change that? I think so. You know, the Longhorn logo on paper at least is a much better offer than Oklahoma currently is right now, or the other schools on that list. So we'll see. But that one makes the most sense. Other in-state names I like, or I think that could make sense. Ryan Estrada, he's a Minnesota commit. He just committed to Minnesota either yesterday or the day before. He's out of El Dorado High School in El Paso. He would actually be the first kid out of El Paso if they offered him. The Texas has offered since DeVoris Jones, who was a running back as well. I forget which El Paso high school he was at. And Texas basically had to pick between him or Jamarian Miller. They chose Jamarian Miller. And then like a week later, DeVoris Jones committed to Mizzou. I think he's still there. And then Jamarian Miller obviously ended up flipping to Alabama later that cycle. But DeVoris Jones at one point like going to end up at Texas. That was the last El Paso kid they offered. But with Estrada, super productive, a bit of a smaller kid, 5'9", 190, 195. Has great, numbers. He's kind of dominating out there, averages over 10 yards per carry. And had OVs to Michigan, Bama, besides the Minnesota OV, and I think he had 2 or 3 others, but got out to Minnesota, shut it down, and commit there, and he's kind of viewed as RB2 of their class, and that's what Michigan and Alabama are recruiting him to play too. So I think that is a name to know. Outside of him, though, like most of the in-state group, I think are pretty much names that like have to go bonkers as seniors to get an offer. Because like I said earlier, Texas isn't going to throw in the towel on KJ Edwards or even a Xavier Crowell, right? So I think they're going to stay at it with the main targets until probably like November, to where there's a point where like they know they're not getting the kid, because a kid like Jet Walker or a kid like Carde Mack or even Estrada, you can probably get him by offering him a week before signing day. You don't have to do it now. So you can wait till you know for sure your top targets are going elsewhere, and I do think that is probably what will end up happening. Carde Mack, I think, is who makes the most sense after Rhodes and Estrada. He's played a lot of high school or a lot of quarterback for his high school at Atascocita, but is primarily a running threat. He likes to tuck it a lot. He's been a super fun player. He helped Atascocita either almost beat Katy or beat Katy a few years ago as a sophomore. And I always actually liked him more than the Oklahoma commit, Torrey Blaylock, who he shared the backfield with. So really like Carde Mack's game. He's also visited Texas for a junior day in the past. So, he's been to campus before, not under Chad Scott, though, at least to my knowledge. And he's currently committed to Arizona State. So not sure what that commit status is there. Real quick, we did talk about Atkinson. He is visiting this weekend. Texas shooting their shot. They're behind a lot of others, though, and honestly kind of way behind. So a lot of ground to make up. But, hey, it's the NIL era. Ground to make up doesn't really exist if you put a big number on the table. So there's that. And then some other names real quick that I think could be senior evals from the state of Texas. Amante Martin out of Port Arthur Memorial. I think he's looking at like TCU, Kentucky, maybe Houston. Tulsa's also in his top schools. His older brother is the running backs coach at Tulsa, Cam Martin. Folks might remember him out of 409 a couple years ago. Went to Auburn, played for Gus Malzahn. He was at UCF for the last few years.
Can we talk about the Cam Martin recruitment real quick?
I know nothing about that recruitment, so go ahead.
So yeah, this will be real. It's very off topic, but very quickly. Cam Martin was committed to Baylor. And I believe it was the class of 2015 or 2016, because I'm not sure of the year of when this happened. Art Briles, ended the way in Baylor, as we all know, in flames, and obviously a terrible situation with all that. But Cam Martin was committed to Baylor, had thought about playing for Baylor his whole life, and was so committed to the program that he got a big Baylor tattoo before he signed. So he has I believe to this day still has the Baylor tattoo. He signed with Baylor, but after all that happened, they let everyone out of their release, out of their letters. I think Baylor signed a class of like 5 that year because everyone was trying to get out of the program, and understandably so. Cam Martin ends at Auburn with the big B on his chest.
Oh yeah, there's some good old recruiting lore. Always love some of that in each episode. I don't know how true this is. I'm choosing to believe it though, because the Port Arthur Memorial staff is who told me this. But Amante and Cam Martin are cousins with Jamal Charles. who is also from the Port Arthur.
I think I did know that actually. So,
but yeah, so he could be a guy. I think he'd have to go bonkers as a senior though. And Coach Top said, "Shout out the Night Riders." Already said Ryan Estrada. Isaiah Lee is a kid out of Lancaster. Really like his game. Best way to describe him, like more of a dancer than a run through your face type of running back. Shifty. Texas had him on the junior day. That was obviously pre the coaching transition at running back, but they're aware of him. They know about him. Kid out of Lancaster. Saw him play twice last year, week 1 versus North Crowley. And that great defense made some plays, and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. This is a kid that deserves an early Oregon offer like he had. And then saw him versus Waxahachie and kind of powered that offense whenever Carter Jones and their quarterbacking passing game was struggling versus Waxahachie and Jaquan Snell. So he's a really good player, I think, but one that I think would have to go bonkers as a senior. And then Jet Walker, a kid that people have been blowing me up in Austin about for feels like 9 years at this point. He was originally at Georgetown and then went to Lampasas and then went back to Georgetown. Hit the portal a little bit, but bigger bodied, kind of run through your face type of running back, like Will said, really productive. But I think of someone who would have to continue ascending. I believe he went over 2,000 yards as a junior. Would probably have to do something similar as a senior. And then with him too, I could see track times potentially being a holdup. I'm not sure if he ran track this year, but I know when I looked at it previously, I don't think he had like broke like 11.2 or 11.3 or gone below that. So I have to look into that. But I mean, like you said, he was the kid who Chad Scott offered. By the time he committed to West V, Chad Scott had already left, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a connection there. I need to look into this kid, but made a few calls in the scouting world last night. Hey, this is a situation with Texas at running back. I don't know the out-of-state group. Do you have any recommendations? And someone that I trust recommended a kid named Damon Ferguson, who's a Pitt commit, 3-star. Need to look into him, but he will be on the list. I trust that source a lot, those eyes a lot, and we'll have him on there. But any other running back stuff you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we probably got more than enough names in here.
All right, real quick. I don't have any more names, but I do want to say Texas tries to take 2 running backs every year. If there's a year to only take one, it's this year.
And yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think I've thought about this over the last 24 hours or so. There was a phenomenal 2025 running back class in the state of Texas, very deep with a lot of guys that have stayed close to home, and a lot that are everywhere throughout the country. If there is a year, like you said, that you take one and decide we're going to go out and get a running back in the portal, which I don't think has been done in the last 3 years, other than
Keelan Robinson and Belton Gardner are the only ones I can think of.
Belton Gardner was just added because of the injuries in the fall and late in summer camp, and was never thought of as a guy that would end up playing. And then he hurt his eye somehow and never played. If you are legitimately going to get someone, it would be the first time since Keelan, and have a real plan for them. I think this is the year. I can think of a couple names. I don't really want to speculate right now because they're going through their freshman year at a new school. But I do think you take a look at that running back class from the state of Texas last year. There's at least 4 or 5 guys that, if they not had, Ricky Stewart and James Simon kind of roll right into the class, may have been on Texas' radar after all. So I can think of guys at 3 different Texas schools right now that Chad Scott would probably like.
Yeah, Will's basically advising Texas to tamper.
I am.
Hey, every school does it. It doesn't even mean anything anymore. But no, seriously though, if they're going to take one running back, this is the year, because the entire running back room from this season could come back next season. Wisner is very unlikely to ever be an NFL draft pick, but probably not after this season. Baxter would imagine. I mean, I guess I could see him leaving, but I think he would kind of have to go bonkers this year. Jared Gibson, he has at least one more year before he's draft eligible. Same with Christian Clark. And then you have Ricky Stewart, James Simon. Am I missing anyone?
I think that's it. I think you got everyone.
You also have like a Michael Terry, who I think is much better off a receiver, but like Jake Bayless. But I mean, hey, he did play some running back in high school, some wildcat quarterback. He could probably do it in a pinch if it came to it. Also wanted to add, like, a lot of the names I mentioned, besides just getting them, like being able to get them in November if you offer them right before signing day, you also have to think like how important budgeting is in recruiting. Like a Jet Walker, and I hate to talk about them this way because they're human beings, they are kids, and football players at the end of the day. But like a Jet Walker, a Ryan Estrada, a Carde Mack, even a Amante Martin, like those commitments cost significantly less than a KJ Edwards does. And they're obviously not the level of prospect KJ Edwards is. But, like you have to consider that, because if you're only spending, I don't know, $100,000, $150,000 on 2 running back commits you added late in the class, it saves you however much more money for all the other positions, So something to think about, and especially like the 2027 running back group. Haven't looked at that yet, but like outside of Landon Williams, Callis is there, and I guess Jacoby Dixon. Like, can you think of any other running back names in the state of Texas? Right?
No, I can't.
Lathan Wissington, maybe. I mean that's kind of it. Like, not a great year. So,
and it's still early. So
yeah, that is true. But going to be very curious to see how Texas navigates the situation going forward.